Hey threadheads, Darren here. Just gonna get set up. Just bear with me for 1 minute and then we'll get into it. All right, here we go. So I thought we'd just tie a few flies. It's been a few weeks since we did any kind of live stuff. RD Fishing Outdoors. Hey, nice fly there, thank you. Just fooling around. I had a big pile of purple biots sitting on my desk here. So I got a few to use up. I'm supposed to be tying a certain fly pattern. So I wanted to make sure I had enough stock. So I bought a whole bunch, and I think I probably have at least a lifetime, maybe 2 lifetimes worth of purple biots. So I've been tying quite a few jig flies over the weekend. So I've been doing lots of these, what do you call that? The Rainbow Warrior. It's a Lance Egan fly pattern. So Dave, this purple fly here, I would say it's not a Prince Nymph, but it's, I guess, it's kind of a mashup between like a Frenchie and Prince Nymph, French Prince, the Fresh Prince of Whitby. I don't know. I can play around with that, but it's kind of a cool little pattern. Yeah, I don't normally tie a lot of Prince Nymphs. In my opinion, they're kind of overly complicated. But I think what we'll do is we'll just start off with something light here. We'll do one of these Rainbow Warriors. So I just got a hook in the vise, and that's a Firehole 516. That's what we're going to be tying on there today. You guys have any questions, anything you want to chat about? I've got the comments up, and I'll have a look at those and we can chat as we tie. Let's get into it, I guess. So we're just going to do, oh wait, we're going to be tying this Rainbow Warrior, so you need a little bit of red thread underneath there. I'm going to use a little bit of red UTC. Just tie that on in behind the bead. And for the bead, I'm just using I believe that's a 3.2 millimeter. And it's a silver tungsten bead. Gonna take a little bit of ringneck pheasant. And for this pattern, just because I don't need a lot of the length, I'm gonna come up kind of near the tip of this where the fibers are a little bit shorter. And I'll save some of those longer ones for some of my Frenchy patterns, that sort of thing. All right, so we'll just measure that about the length of the hook shank, give or take. Tie that down with a couple wraps. Just want to try and keep it on top of the hook shank. Just pull that back just a touch. All right, then we'll tighten that down. I'm going to wrap it just up behind the bead here. Trim that. See if we can get a little bit more light on here. Not sure that helps a whole lot, but just a little bit more. So how's everybody doing so far in spring. Have you been out fishing yet? We just basically lost our ice here, and I was gonna try and head out one day this week and kind of have a look, see how the rivers are doing. Finally getting some decent weather. We're above zero or above freezing. All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of this Mirage Flashaboo. I'm gonna take, say, 3 fibers. And we're just gonna tie that in along the side of the hook shank. Just kind of hold it as I wrap back. Let that thread flatten out a little bit. Then wrap back up behind the bead. Just gonna take a touch of head cement here. And that's just gonna help add a little bit of durability for this fly, just because this one doesn't call for any kind of rib or anything like that. So I'm gonna wrap that up. If you have a couple strands, it kind of helps fill that in a little bit quicker. You don't have to worry about any gaps. We'll tie that off, make sure we go on both sides. RD fishing. You're in Grand Prairie? Okay. So I guess you got a while to wait before your rivers are fishable up there. I think I was in Grand Prairie quite a few years ago, but it's been quite a while. I think you guys have Arctic grayling and bull trout up that way. All right, so for dubbing, I'm going to use a little bit of sow scud, and this one is in, I believe it's the rainbow tan. Yep, rainbow tan SCD 244. So RD fishing outdoors, do you do ice fishing as well then? All right, just add a little bit of dubbing on here. We'll wrap that up. Oh, you know what we forgot? I shouldn't have trimmed off that Flashaboo quite so soon, because we are going to need a little bit of collar on here, or shell back. So we'll just tie that in, and then we'll add our dubbing. Just add a quick little 2-turn whip in there. Then we'll pull these fibers. It's just a little awkward here, just with the position of the camera. Just bear with me. I'll fold that down, make sure it's locked in. I'll save the rest for another fly here. Larry Bennett, hi from Oregon, still a couple weeks away for Stillwater. Tim H, how's it going? Nice to be able to join you through lunch. All right, so we're gonna add a quick whip finish to this Rainbow Warrior. And I've just been finishing them with a tiny little bit of the thin hard Solares, or Solaries, depending on who says it. And we'll just add a little dollop here. That'll secure our thread wraps. And give a little bit of shell back on there. So one thing I've started to do with the UV light is kind of start from further away and then just bring it closely, slower, and I find you don't get that burst of heat, and you get a lot of smoke rising from that. And actually, by doing that, we've been able to add it to some of the squirmy worm material, which I had tested it on that before and actually burnt right through it. It creates so much heat, but if we do it slowly, it seems to not affect it quite the same way, and you can actually get a nice bond on top of it. So for that, I've been using some of the flexible Solaries, and it seems to work pretty well. All right, there's one fly down. All right, we'll do another one here. Let's see, let's try with a black bead. So I got some black brass beads. Got a couple here. Tim, have you ever used spoon flies before? It's not something I've ever used, but remember kind of back before there was a lot of the UV resin stuff going around, people would make them using some of the interesting feathers like partridge or something, kind of as a pattern, and then use a little bit of a two-part epoxy in there, kind of make something nice. All right, let's see, a little bit. I've got a feather here that I wanted to try with a dark pattern. And I can't even remember what kind of feather that is. Some kind of quail or partridge. I'll show you the skin. You can let me know what this is. As soon as I hear it, I'm gonna know, but it's got some of these nice feathers up here with the spots. It's also got these nice barred feathers, as well as these are nice for some soft hackle or legs, that sort of thing. And can't remember offhand. Tim, if you give it a try, let me know how it works out for you. I think it'll be pretty cool. DSMT, so I've got this Solares light, and this one came in a kit. I think it's called the Roadie kit, so it came with a bottle of the thin hard, the thick hard, and the flex formula. I think it was somewhere around $50 or so for the 3 of them. But this light, I'll just show you here. got a weird size battery. So that's the battery model. It's a 18650. This is a rechargeable. I was able to get these on Amazon with a charger. But just to go find the batteries, it's a little bit tricky. But it's, I like the light, and I did have to contact, I think it's Wahoo Industries, about the light, and they helped me through the issue, so I was pretty happy with that. Okay, so let's just tie this fly up, just kind of messing around here. So let's try with a little bit of 70D in olive, tie in behind the bead, and that's a 3.2 millimeter black nickel, and this one's just brass. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of this feather. It's kind of nice and barred like waterfowl or grizzly, I guess. Take a few of those fibers. Just measure them off. I think that should be good. Maybe a couple too many fibers there, but should be okay once that gets wet. Okay, so I think we're going to add a ribbing onto this fly. It's got some silver wire here. I think that might look nice. And then we'll use a little bit of pheasant tail. If I had some black pheasant tail, that would be really nice, I think. But I don't. So we're going to try and maybe mark this up a little bit. So I've got this one tail. It's got these super long fibers. So I'm going to take, let's see, 6 fibers there. Rip those off. And tie those in by the tips in behind the bead. Tie that down to our tail, wind it back up, trim those tips off. Now let's see, I got a Sharpie here. We'll just blacken that up a little. And hopefully I don't paint my fingers black. Hi Matt, how's it going? Yeah, I like the Solar Res. It's been good to work with, especially the bone dry. I use it quite a bit, especially on chironomids and just finishing some of my steelhead flies. Gives a nice smooth finish. All right, so just wrap that up. Then we're going to reverse wrap. Try and give this about 5 ribs here if we can. We'll tie that off in behind the bead. Now I'm not using slotted beads on these. I'm thinking I should probably start to move towards slotted beads just to kind of help get the weight distributed a little bit better on some of these flies. So next I've got a little bit of my favorite color of diamond dub here. This is the UV bronze olive. It's got a nice peacock color. So we'll just take a little bit of that. We'll just dub that onto the thread. Give it a few wraps. I would say it's one of the closer substitutes for peacock that I know of. Give that a whip finish. All right, there we go. All right, I'm gonna maybe just adjust this up just a little bit. Sorry about that. All right. So one other fly that I wanted to tie was a Waltz worm on these jigs. So I'll take another black bead here. And again, all these flies I'm tying on Firehole 5/16s and just in size 12 today. I tied a few dozen for my box on the weekend. Mostly Rainbow Warriors. Okay, so for the Waltz worm, we're going to want a hot color of thread here. Let's see if I have any threaded up right now. Nothing. So I think we're going to go with this fluorescent pink. Just give me a minute to thread one up. So for bobbins or bobbin holders, I use quite a bit of different stuff. This one here is just kind of a basic. I think it's a it's one I just got. I think they're actually the Griffin standard bobbins. I've also got some of the Dr. Slick bobbin holders, just the eco ones that are not too bad, but they've got this plastic insert here, which makes it kind of a pain in the butt because it's not a tube all the way through. It just goes in a little bit of the way, and then there's a bit of a bump on there. So when you're threading those, it's especially if you're using one of these, you can kind of see I just melted the tip of that a little bit so it'll go over the bump that's inside that bobbin tube. If you want to spend a little bit of money and you want to get something that's a little bit nicer, I've got this one from Ekich, and this one's set on, it's like a retractable, I guess. So when you, after you take your thread out, it'll reset itself. So this isn't a very good demonstration, but anyways, this one needs to be fixed a little bit. It's been put through its paces. So anyways, like for me, like I usually have anywhere between 10 or 12 bobbin holders on my desk at any one time. So I tend to just buy the cheaper ones and just have a lot of them rather than switching thread colors all the time. I've also got some of these cheaper ones, the ceramic ones, and they've been pretty good for a while, but these are starting to break down. Probably had them for about 10 years. They have a little bit of solder inside this rubber sleeve and it's starting to come undone, so this will get a little bit wobbly. So I've had to repair a couple of those. These ones, that's what you see is what you get. I think you can get these for $5 or $10 a piece, and they do the job just as well. All right, so let's get started with this one. Hey Bill, how's it going? So Bill had a question about fishing these jig flies. So normally what I'm doing with these is I'm just casting these into some of the smaller streams and not necessarily jigging with them, but part of the idea is that when you do fish them, the weight is going to push the fly upside down so the hook point rides up, and just fish them the same as you would any other nymph. You try and bounce it near the bottom if you can, for the most part, and just swing it through. So I usually cast these upstream, and depending on the depth of the water, if it's deeper water, I might use a strike indicator, and if it's shallower water, I'll just try and bounce it along the bottom, and just with the hook point riding up, I tend to get fewer snags this way. All right, so for the Waltz worm, we're going to use a little bit of this mirage that was left over. I'm just going to take one strand, tie that in along the side. If I can, I always like to just poke it inside the back of the bead there. Matt, I saw some of the flies that you were tying. Thanks for sharing them. It's kind of nice to see your progress. All right, so for the dubbing, we're going to just use plain hare's ear, and this is HD4. I think that's the original, or it might be the dark. I can't remember offhand. Just let me check, see what my other stuff looks like. Okay, so that's just the standard. So here's the dark hare's ear, HD5, compared to the lighter. A little bit of difference there. All right, we're just going to use the standard. It's nice, it's got a lot of guard hairs in here. So we're just going to start by teasing this apart a little bit. Just kind of separate those fibers, and if there's any little knots in there, get rid of them. Okay. So I'm going to take my thread back up, and I'm going to start behind the bead. I'm just going to taper or put a fairly thin noodle of dubbing on there, almost as thin as you can get it. And then we'll just start here. We'll wrap down, and you want to make sure that you have just a little bit of a noodle here just to cover this area. And you want to get down there and back quickly so you're not going to build too much bulk on that end. And then you can bulk it up a little bit more once you get back here on this side. So RD Fishing is asking about where I get most of my materials. Because I tie commercially, I've got access to some wholesalers. Not all of my stuff is wholesale though. So I do buy some stuff through places like Superfly here in Canada and Firehole hooks, stuff like that. You get a bit of a discount if you're buying in bulk. I just actually purchased a bunch of stuff on the weekend from Fly Tires Dungeon. They've got a nice set of legs for fly tying, as well as just some odds and ends. They just wanted to try out a few things. The majority I get from Superfly or Hook and Hackle. A couple different wholesalers. I guess those are both in Alberta. But you need to be able to meet minimums for those, and Superfly isn't actually going to be making fly tying materials any longer, so that's kind of a bummer. Because I really liked some of their materials, especially their marabou. It's one of my favorites. Sorry for that awkward angle. So we just put the ribbing on there, made a couple extra lines just at the back here, just to put on a little bit of a tag. We'll trim that off. So I guess this would be considered a sexy Walt. And then we'll just make a little bit of a hot spot right behind the bead. All right, I'm just gonna add a little bit of head cement to that just to secure those wraps. That should be good. So Matt's asking if I can make pike flies. Yes, I can. I don't fish a lot of pike anymore, so I haven't really tied a whole lot of pike flies recently, but I think that's something I can think about adding down the line. I'll have to dig out some of my bigger hooks. All right. So I've been browsing a lot of Instagram. Whoa! Oops. Been browsing a lot of Instagram fly tires lately, and just checking out some of their creations. And lots of different ideas on there. So one thing I wanted to try here is just give me 1 second, pick up that light. All right. Oh yeah, so wanted to try one with a little bit of holographic tinsel. So I got some silver. Maybe we'll go with I guess I'm not sure if that's black or purple. I think it should be fine. So take a small length of that. And grab our black thread for this. So I'm interested in knowing where most of you guys get your information for fly tying on the internet. What sites do you like to visit the most? Just tie that flash, that tinsel in to the side here. I think we should probably add a tail here. Aberetta 33, hiya, how's it going? All right, so I think we'll tie in a tail of pheasant tail here. So take about 5 or 6 strands. So 7. Tie it in a touch shorter than that. Make sure you got it up on top. I'm going to add a little bit of a taper in here. So kind of go back, not quite all the way to the back of the fly. Do touching turns all the way up to the bead. Do a couple extra back here. Go up a little further. Make one more pass, just add a little bit more taper in there. I think that should be good. Then we'll just do touching turns up the length of that. I'm going to coat this with a little bit of UV resin here. Make sure we got that tied off on both sides. Save that for another fly. I'll take some pictures of these flies that I've tied here today and make sure we get them put up on the community feed so you guys can check those out as well. So let's add a color on this purple. I guess do maybe holographic purple, or maybe a blue, the bronze or the brown might look kind of cool. Decisions. I think let's go with this brown here. I think that's a good match for it. So Bill, are you from the UK? I watch Davey as well. He's got really good technique. I've been watching him since he started tying, I guess. Used to be a member of Fly Tying Forum. I guess he probably still is, but we used to chat there once in a while. But I think fly tying forums are a little bit out of favor now. I said I was going to put a little bit of UV resin on this. I should have done that before. Put the dubbing on. So we'll just kind of carefully coat that. Try not to get it on any of the dubbing here. Okay, you're in St. Louis. Cool. All right, I think that should be good. All right, you guys want to do one or two more flies? Let's see what else we got. Maybe we'll do kind of a copper johnish sort of thing. Not an actual copper john, but something a little bit along that line. We'll grab a copper bead. Yeah, I do watch quite a bit of YouTube lately. There's a lot of good fly tires on here as well. I was thinking of doing a video listing some of the newer tires that I've been following. You guys think that might be something that's interesting? You can let me know. All right, so let's switch up to an olive thread here. All right, let's do a little bit of this purple. You want to do purple? Not really. Let's try a different color. I've got some amber. Let's try that. All right, so let's take 2 biots. And I just like to switch those just so that they flay apart. They can be a little bit tricky. And then what I do is I just push them over. All right, getting low on battery here. See if we can keep it going though. All right, we'll tie those down into the tail. So when we tie them down, I want to try and make sure that, first of all, that they're straight. And twist them a little bit. A little bit crooked there, but it's not too bad. They'll still fish well. Trim those off. All right, let's find some wire here for these. Not this color wire. A little bit too on the nose. Too bright. About this brown wire. It's a nice color. Maybe we'll just go with a regular copper. Let's go with that, maybe. I'm kind of bad for buying fly tying materials. Never usually just buy one color of something. I usually end up buying half the color range, or even sometimes the full color range on that. I'll just stick that into the bead, tie it in along the side here. Then we'll add a touch of taper. moving up towards the bead. Just want to leave a bit of room, create a thorax up here as well. So you want to make touching turns of the wire as we go up. So you can kind of like push back a little bit on the wire, and that'll seat each wrap next to the one before it. If you got a rotary vise, you can use that as well. All right, that looks pretty good. Tie that off up here. Put a few locking wraps in behind this thread or the wire. And then we'll pull up hard on the wire. Give it a few wiggles and it should pop off. And we're going to cheat this just a little bit, I think. I'm going to take well, let's just take these leftover materials that we have. Take that holographic tinsel, a couple of the mirror flash, trim those. We'll tie those in as our thorax, or as our wing case. We'll add a little bit of dubbing. I'm going to use darker color here. I'm going to use some of this black peacock. Just put a little bit of a noodle in there. Now this isn't like a proper copper john by any means, but it'll do the trick. Make sure you get that locked in place here. There we go. Save that stuff for another fly down the road. Trim that up a little. All right, I think we'll add a little bit of solaries on there. Sorry about that. This light's a little low. And grab a toothpick to move that around a little bit before we set it. Add a little more. That's way too much. I think that should be okay. There we go. Not the prettiest thing, but it's gonna work. Hey Steve, how's it going? How are the rivers looking in New York today? All right, maybe we'll do one more fly. Let's see. Okay, so there's one other dark pattern that I was looking at. A little bit of peacock. So let's do a black bead for that one. Again, we're just using mostly brass beads here, just regular cyclops beads. Not going crazy, worrying about slotted tungsten or anything like that. All right, we got some black 70 UTC. And I think we're gonna need a black hackle. See if I have any around here. Don't really. So I think I'm just going to use one of these feathers that I was showing you earlier. Find a dark one. So I'll just take a few fibers from that. Tie that in. Okay, we're going to need a wire for this. Got a little bit of silver hanging out. So we'll throw that in there. Now I'd like to make a peacock body. So I should have some peacock hanging out here somewhere. So I'm going to take a couple, maybe, let's say 2 hurls. And we're going to tie those in by the tips, but not the very tips. Those are a little too fragile. So we'll come up a little bit. Make sure we have enough length to cover. This might be a bit of a fragile fly. It should be fine. Just gonna grab some hackle pliers to help with that. We'll just add this on, twist it towards the bead. All right, it's not too bad. Not a fan of that tail, to be honest. Then we will counter rib. So we'll wind this silver ribbing in the opposite direction where we wound the peacock. I'll give it a little bit more strength. Matt, what kind of easy fly do you want me to make? Simpler than these ones? All right, let's see if I can find my Sharpie here. I'll just add a little bit of black to that tail. Yeah, that's a little better. All right, should we keep it dark like that, or should we pop on a hot collar? All right, let's keep it fairly dark. I got a little bit of peacock dub. I'll add a little bit of that. Okay, I'll make one more after this. For Matt, it'll be a simple one. All right, we just want to kind of make that a touch bigger than what our body is. Nice fat little bug. I think the trout will have a hard time passing that one up. What do you think? All right, we'll do one more for Matt here. Matt, can you let me know what color bead you want real quick? Red? I don't have any red beads, I don't think. Not in this size anyway. I've got silver, copper, or black right now. How about we do silver? Perfect. All right. So we'll just do probably the simplest jig we can do. Let's tie this one in red. So just use a little bit of UTC 70. And this is going to be a bit of a darker fly. All right, let's use some gold wire. All right, tie that in along the side of the hook shank. I just like to make sure that I've got whatever we're tying, that the body's always kind of uniform or tapering up towards the bead. All right, so you want to make sure you got everything covered towards the back. Then we're going to start to build a little bit of a taper here. We'll come back a little bit less each time and then wrap forward. Just building a nice taper into that body. Then we'll wrap up or rib. We'll add a couple extra turns right at the bottom here. Then we'll spiral open. Catch that right up on top. Give that some upward pressure. Helicopter that off. Add a few wraps. All right. So now I'm going to take some of the UV cement. I'm going to cover that whole thing. And if you don't have UV, you can use something like a Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. That'll work pretty well. Just have to make sure you give it time to dry. And we're just going to add one more little touch to this before we call it done. I'm going to take a little bit of black, and we're just going to add a little drop to the top here. I want to make sure you don't put too much on there. There you go. Hey guys, thank you everybody who dropped by to watch. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, feel free to drop a like on the video. This will be up online if you want to reference it later. It won't be on the main page, but it'll be in the live stream playlist, so you can find it there. All right, thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a great day. Hope those rivers, those lakes start opening up for you and you can get out there fishing. Don't forget, I will put a picture or two of the flies that I tied here today. I'll take some better photographs and we'll post those up on the community page on YouTube here. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.